All right. I think we'll go ahead and get started. So again, thank you all so much for joining. Please continue to introduce yourself in the chat. Um, Today's training is about nonpartisan election protection, and it's broken up into two different parts. So we're gonna, um, and please, if you can, mute yourself so that we don't have any feedback. Um, but we're going to ensure that you have the tools you need to advocate for strong early voting plans in your community. And we're going to talk about the important role that Canvas monitoring can play to make sure that everybody's vote, every eligible voter gets their vote counted. So we'll start with just some quick introductions. And My name's Tyler Day. I'm with Common Cause North Carolina. I'm joined with my colleague Sailor Jones, Deputy Director with Common Cause North Carolina. And we're thrilled to be hosting this evening's training with our friends Marquez Thompson and Lucas Sejo from Democracy North Carolina and Lily Tallerman from the Southern Coalition for Social Justice. So you will be hearing from them shortly. Um, and tonight's training is being recorded. So all the resources that we share will be provided to you by email after the training. So just sit back and relax. You're going to get everything you need. We'll also have time for Q&A at the end. And we do have some folks monitoring your questions in the chat. Um, a big thanks to Keith and Caitlin, Keith Chappelle with Blueprint and Caitlin Metzger with You Can Vote, who are helping us with monitoring your questions in the chat tonight. So we do want to remind everyone we are all nonpartisan organizations. So we do ask that you stay nonpartisan tonight. And with that, we will go ahead and get started. And I'm going to pass it to my colleague Sailor Jones to talk about early voting.
Thank you, Tyler Day. Two of my favorite things in the world, early voting advocacy and canvas monitoring. So I can't wait for this hour of power. This training is designed for you to be successful advocates in ensuring you have the tools you need to advocate for the strongest early voting plans possible in your community. Now, how many of you have done early voting advocacy before? Let me know in the chat. Is this your first time doing what we call EV advocacy on the county level? Are you not an old pro, but a seasoned pro at early voting advocacy? Well, regardless, we've got something for you. Through this training, you're going to learn why early voting matters. If you don't know already, the process for deciding early voting plans. What makes a good early voting plan is always important when you're advocating on the county level, and how you can advocate for the best early voting plan for your community. We really do hope this training will serve as a refresher for many of you returning volunteers. Always good to remember how to do this when the time is right, and that you will learn about new
Well,
resources
did you already
we
do this
have.
too?
And if we can encourage you to stay on mute
You
through
gotta
this
wait for me.
and drop your questions in the chat, even better. We're going to give you some strategies that will help advance your advocacy even from prior years. So even if you're a seasoned early voting advocate, there's something here for you. If you're new, all new, it's going to be great. And we are going to help you build relationships with the people who have done early voting advocacy before. You got a lot of pros in the chat tonight. I see all the names, and build relationships not only with them, but with your county board of election staff and members. To start us off, I want to turn it back to our own Mr. Tyler Day to talk about why early voting matters so much. Tyler?
Thank you, Sailor. So, early voting plans are often crafted by or with major input from paid county election staff, such as the Board of Elections Director. However, the final decision on the plans are made by the members of the county boards of elections. So, county boards of elections members often refer to previous early voting plans from comparable years to help guide them in creating the plan. So, for the 2026 primary election, The last comparable plans would be from the 2022 primary election. That was the last midterm primary election. The vote at the county level must be unanimous to approve the plan. If that unanimous vote doesn't happen, the State Board of Elections decides on the plan. Often, county boards will send two plans to the state board to consider, a majority plan and a minority plan, but more than two plans may be submitted. Any single member of a county board of elections can submit an alternative plan to the state board. The state board considers whether or not the county has provided adequate coverage of the county's electorate and if the plan disproportionately favors any party, racial, or ethnic group or candidate. So the individual county boards of elections members who can themselves file a plan to be considered, and not just the board as a whole, they can be considered your allies in producing a plan with robust early voting options. And in the past, we have offered to help board members craft an alternative plan, and it's important to let them know that these and other resources to help guide them are at their disposal. So the State Board of Elections members, as well as county staff, are what we'd call secondary targets, are people
So he didn't make
have
it.
who have some influence over the main targets. However, if a county board submits non-unanimous plans, the state board members will become the main targets. Counties have already begun discussion on their plans, and some have voted, but many have yet to discuss or vote on their plans. And this year, there will be many new County Board of Elections members who have been who may or may not be familiar with previous early voting plans and the importance of particular sites and days. So it's important that we advocate for an early voting plan that makes it easy and accessible for all voters. Um, so I do want to just uh, show you this. I want you to imagine that you're at your local county board of elections monitoring meeting, and you're discussing early voting plans. They're discussing early voting plans for the upcoming election, and your county has a history of providing 2 to 4 early voting sites, and one board member says something like this, what you see on the screen here. I'm against early one-stop voting. I don't understand why, for convenience's sake, we open it up to the possibility of someone coming in and changing what the votes are. Eliminating early voting is one step closer to shutting down faulty voting. We can have better control in just one early voting site. Everything is contained in one spot where we have control. Is it an inconvenience? Yes. It's a disadvantage for the majority of Republicans. It is an extra 15 minutes travel time. And no one has told me they cannot get out of work on election day to vote. That is actually a quote from a former uh, Surrey County Board of Elections member. And this was when they were discussing early voting plans in 2022. I believe that I'm not sure if that was for a primary election or not, but um, I just think it's stunning that a board of elections member would say this, and um, you know, I, I can tell you, I am certainly aware of people who cannot get out of work on election day to vote, and it's really important that board members know that there are other people like that, and that because there may be other members on the current boards that feel similarly to the way that this member feels, and it's really important that they hear from the public and that they hear that um, uh, you know robust early voting plans are important. I do want to show you just some stats here. So In both midterm elections and presidential elections, early voting is the most popular way to vote in North Carolina, and it's only become increasingly popular over time. So when you look at these midterm elections, you can see just 19% of um, of North Carolinians voted early in 2006, and by 2022, that was 53%. And then if you look at the presidential elections, you can see it's gone up, and we don't have the very latest presidential election here, but I can tell you that 74% of North Carolinians voted early in 2024 during the general elections. That's the highest percentage ever. So it has only been getting more and more popular. So early voting is not just about convenience. There are many reasons why early voting is essential to increasing turnout and protecting votes. Early voting, for one, reduces long lines at the polls on election day. Two, early voting means more opportunity for all voters, including those with irregular schedules or transportation challenges, again, including those who can't get off of work to vote on election day. You've got weekend options during early voting. One of the most common reasons why an in-person voter's ballot may not count is due to voting at the wrong precinct on election day. During early voting, you can vote anywhere in the county. Um, and third, early voting offers same-day registration. So over 100,000 North Carolinians have used same-day registration. They used same-day registration in 2020, and I know over 100,000 also used it during the last election in 2024. The younger the voter, the more likely they are to use same-day registration. And many younger voters are registering for the first time. They are more likely to change residences. This includes a lot of college students and voters that are moving around, changing jobs. And so it's really important that that they're able to same day register because every time a voter moves, they will need to update their registration. And once the voter registration deadline has passed, they can only update their registration during early voting. You cannot register and vote on the same on election day. So as you can see, accessibility to early voting sites can have a major impact on turnout and who is eligible to vote. Um, and I know we have uh, gone over a part of this, um, but I'm gonna pass it to Sailor to talk some about um, uh, who makes the decisions with early voting, and how are those decisions made?
And just to recap some of what Tyler has said, early voting plans often crafted by the County Board of Elections staff at the behest of the Board of Elections director. Final decisions on the plan are made by the County Board of Elections members. And so the County Board of Elections members are so important. But they can file multiple plans. There can be, say, a majority plan or minority plans. And so it's not just up to us to make allies of the entire board, but we can also make allies of individual board members who may agree with us on more weekend hours or more Sunday voting, more hours that work for workers in our community. So think of it as being able to lobby to individuals on the board because alternative plans, plans where there are multiple plans, can go up to the State Board of Elections for consideration there too. As Tyler said, that makes the State Board of Elections themselves our secondary target. So once we've lobbied below to get someone on the board to provide us with the plans that we need to give early voting sites to our communities that they deserve. If a plan goes up to the State Board of Elections because it is non-unanimous, meaning there are multiple plans, we can then lobby to the State Board of Elections for those more fulsome plans. As Tyler said, this year there will be many new county boards of election members who have are new to the process, and especially for the seasoned early voting advocates on the call, you may know more than they do about the process, especially about how the community uses early voting, especially about accessibility issues. Make those pieces of information known to these County Board of Elections members, whether they are seasoned or not. Your voice matters. So this may not be your first rodeo with early voting advocacy, but it may be their first rodeo in deliberating over those plans. So please, please, please make your voices heard. And to talk a little bit more about what a good early voting plan is, I'm going to pass it to Lily right now. Lily?
Yeah, thanks so much, Sailor. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about things to look out for in voting plans or to advocate for to address all of the really important things that Tyler has already talked about a little earlier. So one of the really big things to think about is convenient voting locations for young voters and student voters that might be on college campuses or really nearby college campuses. An example of this, you can think back in, I think, 2023, the Guilford County Board of Elections was considering not including early voting sites at UNCG and at A&T. Both of those are some of the largest residential schools in the state, and they had previously been used as an early voting site. And actually, one of the Common Cause County Board of Election monitors shared that information that they were considering cutting early voting sites from those locations. And because of that, we were able to notify coalition partners and students who that would affect and get people to the county board meetings where the plans were being debated and voted on. And that effort was able to save those two sites in the 2024 primary plan and preserving those convenient locations for the student voters. Um, Another thing to look out for is really robust weekend hours for voting, which includes multiple Saturdays and Sundays. So, under state law, counties are only required to have early voting sites open during the weekdays and that one Saturday before the election, but they can opt to have more than that. And so, it's really important to advocate for those additional Saturdays and the Sunday votings so that people have more opportunities to get to the polls, especially when you think about folks who are working the typical weekday work shift. This is really helpful there. A lot of people have Souls to the Polls events and things like that on Sundays. So, really advocating for that and letting the county board know how many people are behind that and know that Sunday voting and weekend voting in general is really important to the community is another thing to look out for. The next thing is more satellite voting locations that can serve more underrepresented communities, including Black voters and other communities of color. This means, having sites beyond just maybe the County Board of Election office or something like that, and really having sites located in areas where different underrepresented voters live. Again, thinking back to Guilford, when they were debating plans for the 2024 primary, some members thought about not including a site at Barber Park, which is an eastern part of Greensboro and historically has been used by a lot of Black voters who live close to it. And so advocacy again around keeping that site and preserving that as a site that is accessible to Black voters is really important. So that is another thing to look out for, especially if you have a lot of awareness of the county that you're in. And then last, when possible, voting locations that are really close to public transit lines, have accessible parking, have really great curbside parking options, and space for poll workers to be able to actually do their jobs, helps more folks get in and out and get to polls in the first place. So those are just some things to keep in mind, and especially to address all of the really important features of early voting that Tyler mentioned. Um, and now to think more about like what you can do to advocate for all of those good things, I'll pass it over to Marquez.
All right, thank you. Just like Lily said, now we're going to talk about we know what a good early voting plan is. So how do we get one in our county? Well, a simple plan starts with calling your board of elections, your county board of elections, finding out when they meet, asking what's on the agenda, and ask for a copy of their early voting plan. You want to remember to call and confirm any meeting dates, ask for the agenda, ask for a copy of the early voting plan. Even if early voting isn't on the agenda, it's still important to attend because you can give public comments and talk to members and the staff about early voting. And it's always important to build those relationships. So going to all of these meetings is super important for that. Even if you can't attend a board of elections meeting, you can still provide public comments by emailing the board. You can go to ccnc.me/yourboe to find contact information for your county board of elections. So once you know when the meetings are and you're going to attend those meetings, when you're there, you want to gather intelligence. Contact one of the members of the county board of elections, the director or other staff members with whom you have or can have the best relationship with. Some of the things to ask for when you're talking to them are, when will the board discuss its 2026 primary early voting plan? Or what's the process for making a decision? Will they consider supporting or opening some early voting sites on Sunday? So again, you want to know where they stand and how they feel about early voting. After you gather intelligence, your next step is to organize. Share what you learn with supporters, friendly civic groups like Democracy NC and Common Cause and the ones on the call now. And talk to your allies who's in the community that you know. Ask what they think about the plans that you know about and if the plan has the ingredients of a good early voting plan. Attend the Board of Election meetings and advocate for a good early voting plan with others. So you want to organize a diverse group of people to go with you. For example, you could take faith leaders or campus leaders to push for Sunday voting or for a site near campus for that extended weekend hours. You may bring people, the more people you can bring, the more it's clear that the community wants strong early voting hours. Just remember, it's important not to advocate for too many additional hours or sites unless you are confident that they will be used. Because when you have poor usage, that can set a bad precedent, especially in years where we have tight budgets, and it can make it harder to advocate for additional sites and hours in the future. So that's why you want to rely on your community members and research. And we are here to help with all of those things, but we want to make sure you can make decisions around what are the best sites and hours to fight for your community. Lastly, we want to think about following the process. Keep showing up at the County Board of Election meetings. Ask the staff to include you on the email or media list and all notices for meetings. You actually want to be a part of the team. By the time of the vote, you should have a sense of what will happen based on everything you've learned. If your county plan goes to the State Board of Elections with a non-unanimous plan, you want to follow that process too. And report back. We have a reporting form that we ask you to fill out after interactions with the County Board of Election staff, board members, or anytime you attend a BOE meeting. The more we know what's happening, the better support we can offer. So by completing a form, we can respond faster to issues that come up. We can highlight positive stories and developments and provide you and others with stronger and relevant support. So you can find the reporting form at dmnc.co/BOE report form. And similarly, it's the same report form at ccnc.me/CBOE report. I'm telling you, it's so important that you fill out the report. Many times when you can attend the meeting, but unless you fill out the report, there's a limit to how helpful that is. So we really appreciate you filling out those reports. So I'm going to pass it back to Tyler to talk about some resources that we have.
Thank you, Marquez. So just to recap some of that, you want to make sure that you are asking your county board when are they going to discuss their early voting plans, and you want to still, you want to go to the county board of elections meetings and advocate, even if you can't be there. When they meet to discuss, you can still provide comment to your county board by emailing them, and they should take that into account. And yeah, and then of course make sure that you're reporting back to us. Yeah, make sure that you're reporting back to us any information that you get. We're able to then send out information to others and let other people know, hey, X county is discussing their plan, and hopefully get people to those meetings, and also provide support with information about why certain sites should be kept, um, and so forth. So I did want to point out some tools, and we are going to send you the links for these things. But there's a tool from the Center for Inclusive Democracy, um, and that should say for inclusive, not or inclusive democracy. But it is a resource that allows you to it provides different demographic data for each county. I think it covers all 100 counties in the state, and you can click on your county, and it will provide suggested locations for early voting sites. It'll map it out. It will show previous sites that have been used. It will show data on where there are transit stops. It will show data on where younger voters are in the county, where people who may not have a vehicle, where they are in the county. So things like that. And so it can be a really powerful tool to be able to see certain areas that may really benefit from having an early voting site. And then also, um, we're going to provide you a link to the 2022 primary early voting plans. As I said before, counties are going to be looking back to the 2022 primary plan since that was the last comparable year to see what they're going to do for the 2026 primary. And so we're gonna provide that to you, and it will have all the sites that were used in each county. It'll also have information about sites that have been um, historically used by marginalized communities, by minority voters in each county. Um, so you'll be able to look at that, and as well as how many Saturdays and Sundays the county had, and the hours that the county used um, for weekends. So that'll be helpful in comparing between what your county proposes for 2026. Let's see. All right, so I do um, just want to pause for a minute because I know uh, like I said, we're doing two parts here. We're gonna move into Canvas monitoring, but I wanted to see if there are questions that people have about early voting, and we'll have another opportunity for questions um, at the end as well. And you can raise your hand, or I do see one question in the chat from Nancy. If the state board is looking for voting plans that do not advantage certain groups, is it really helpful to advocate for voting locations convenient to communities of color, college campuses, etc.? Um, yes, I think that it still is important to advocate for that. Um, what the state board is looking at, I think really there is making sure that a plan is not created that advantages a party. Um, but what we're focused on is making sure that groups that have historically not been able to or that have where it's been harder for those groups to be able to vote, or where we know that these groups have voted in fewer numbers because of different headwinds. I think that those are things that we want to advocate for, and I don't think that those that would be an issue. um, with the state board. And yeah, and I see Caitlin is also also answered that in the chat. Um, all right. Um, just pausing again.
Tyler, I just wanted to say thank you for explaining this in a way I understand. Mhm.
Oh, great, Carol. I'm happy. Um, all right. Well, if there aren't any other questions or comments, again, we're going to have a more extended period at the end. Um, but we're going to move now into Canvas monitoring. So um, today's Canvas monitoring training is going to use lessons from prior elections to help us all prepare for this year's general election. We will cover three main things: why we are monitoring the county boards of elections, or CBOEs, as we call them, what happens during Canvas and pre-Canvas meetings, and what to be looking out for, and then how you can join this effort. Um, and we'll provide next steps and resources for you. So, Canvas monitoring is an opportunity to witness the most important aspects of our elections, build relationships, accountability, and community empowerment, flag local election problems, concerns, or challenges, and help better achieve better election policies in the short and long term. Some of you may have participated in Canvas monitoring before, and to those of you who have, we are extremely thankful for you. Your reports um, have helped us greatly. And for others, this may be your first time. There have been several election law changes that are going to affect this year's Canvas in comparison to previous years. Uh, yeah, it seems like every year we're talking about election law changes. And our goal is to prepare you for everything you need to know, whether this is a refresher or your first time. So, just a few things to note. Appointed county boards are made up of 5 members. This includes 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans, recommended by the state Democratic and Republican Party chairs, and appointed by the State Board of Elections. The state auditor appoints the chair of each county board. That is a change from years past due to Senate Bill 382, which passed last year. Previously, the governor appointed the chair of each county board. So there will likely be 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats on these boards. Each board hires a county director of elections who runs the office, manages the staff, and operates the election. So I'm now going to pass it to Lily to talk about the CAMPS process, who leads it, and why it is so important.
Thanks, Tyler. Um, so I love Canvas and Canvas process and talking about it. So apologies if I start going too fast. I will try and go a little slower. Um, Basically, the day of Canvas kind of wraps up the whole election process. I think a lot of people who aren't as engaged in the election process usually think like elections are decided on election night and then it's done. Um, but to actually certify every election with confidence, there is an election canvas. So the post-election county canvas is a whole process that occurs after every election in every single county in North Carolina. And the canvas is really important because it includes a process of ensuring all of the votes have been counted correctly, um, that any audits of the elections have been completed, and then finally it culminates on the day of canvas in certifying the election results. The way that actually looks in practice is during meetings held at each county board of elections. So that final day of canvas meeting, is on Friday. Oh my goodness. November 14th this year. So it's 10 days after the election. Every county is required to meet that day at 11 a.m. Um, so they will all meet. But what happens, and all the county board members will be in attendance, as well as usually the elections director, maybe some staff members, all of that. Um, they'll be compiling the results and again, reporting them all out to certify the election and kind of bring the whole election process to a close. But what's happening leading up to that date and those days between election day and canvass is kind of the broader canvass process and those pre-canvass meetings that the county board is holding. So those are expected to happen kind of anytime in those windows between the election and day of canvass. A lot of counties will meet, the Friday after the election, November 7th, to review provisional ballots, which I think we'll talk a little bit more about later. Some counties might also schedule additional pre-canvass meetings in between there, especially these bigger counties that have a lot to talk about. Um, and they're also probably going to make a lot of really important decisions on during these meetings. And again, we'll talk about some of the more things they're looking at, like provisional ballots, later on. But these pre-canvass meetings are where a lot of the actual decisions on what votes are going to be certified on day of canvass. That's where those conversations are happening. So we really encourage you to attend as many of those pre-canvass meetings as you can, in addition to that final day of canvass meeting. Um, it's also possible that some county boards will discuss their 2026 early voting plans during Canvas meetings, so you can keep an eye out for that. The counties should share their, Canvas agendas. It might just say Canvas of the election and then early voting plans. Different counties report that out different way, but that is something to keep your eye out for. And then again, following those pre-Canvas meetings, the official election results will be approved by the 5 members of the county canvas. That then goes up to the state board, and the state board of elections will certify everything as well. Um, they hold their own canvas meeting. That's going to be Tuesday, November 25th, and that's when all of that will be certified. So some things to expect if you have never been to a pre-canvas or canvas meeting. Um, there are some folks you'll typically see there. So that will be the chair of the county board. Like Tyler mentioned, it's likely a Republican, the 2 Democratic members and the 2 Republican members, as well as the director and maybe any other staff. In some smaller counties, it really may be just the director. In larger counties, you may see staff who are handling particular things. You might also see voters who are disputing challenges to their ballots. You might see partisan observers from any of the major parties. You might see attorneys, possibly just sitting in or otherwise representing voters or groups or campaigns. There might be other advocacy groups, like other folks from all of our organizations and who are on the call now. And then you might also see members of the media. And they're all public meetings is something to emphasize, right? You have a right to be there. All these people also, have the right to be there. These are all open meetings that you are allowed and encouraged to attend. Um, so there should be seats out for you to watch, be able to watch the proceedings. The only thing with that is that you'll probably be seated in a way that you're not seeing the actual ballots, right? To not seeing anyone's personal information, but you're able to sit there and watch all the board as they go through their process, examining ballots, passing along questions. Maybe they're conferring with the county board director and the staff to get questions answered. Um, Sometimes in small counties, like I was at a campus, I think in Wilson County, where it was just like in their conference room, and we all sat around like a big board table together. So that might also happen too if you go to a smaller county. Um, so that's kind of broadly what to expect. Like I said, we'll talk more about kind of some of the things to look out for substantively in those discussions a little bit later on. But for now, I'll pass it back over to Sailor to talk about what you should do before, during, and after all of these meetings.
Thank you so much, Lily. I really, really appreciate it. And I feel like I'm geeking out like you are right now because I love Canvas monitoring. After you do all that hard work to get the best early voting sites possible, in your neck of the woods, it's really, really fulfilling to be able to go to those Canvas meetings and make sure everybody who came to those early voting sites, their ballots do count. So this is one of the most important things we can do, and grateful to you, Lily, for leading the charge. I'm going to walk you through the do's and don'ts for Canvas monitoring. They're very, very simple. Tyler reminds me every election cycle of what they are. So before the meeting, do check the date and time for your assigned county to confirm the meeting time and location. We're going to give you that information to the best of our ability. We call ahead and try to anticipate when those meetings are going to be based on what they tell us. However, especially if you're driving from a long distance to go to a specific county, we really recommend that you call your assigned county board of elections to confirm that meeting time before you hit the road. I even did this year. I was canvas monitoring in Vance County, which is about an hour and a half from my home. I called Tyler Day first, and I was like, I know you checked on this yesterday. Should I call ahead? He encouraged me to do so. I called the same day and confirmed that meeting time. It was an easy thing to do. We're going to drop a link in the chat right now. You can look up your county board of elections or your assigned county board of elections. Even now, find out the phone numbers and contact information of those groups. And like the voter hotline, put it in your cell phone so you can call day of. Once you know your county canvas meeting, you do want to plan to arrive early to save a seat just in case it's crowded. When I was in Vance County earlier this year for canvas monitoring, I was the only game in town. I was the only canvas monitor there. However, there was only one chair, so I got there early and snagged a seat. Introduce yourself to the county staff and the county members and ask how you might inquire if you or another a member of the public should have questions. When can you ask those questions? They'll feel free to tell you. And the more you get to know those folks before the meeting starts, the more comfortable they'll be letting you know what's happening as you go. During the meeting, do take detailed notes about everything you hear. Nothing is too small in a Canvas monitoring meeting, and you never ever know when you're doing the day of Canvas, when you're monitoring the day of Canvas, what information is actually going to be so important to the legal experts and to the election experts who are looking over those materials. So take copious notes. We strongly recommend you taking a tablet or a laptop with you and avoiding handwriting issues. It's not that we don't love your cursive, but it's so much easier if you've typed those notes into your phone, tablet, or computer to actually report them later on. Do remain nonpartisan at all times. We're going to avoid political t-shirts or political buttons. Remember, we're here in a room with Republican and Democratic board members and election staff who we don't know what they feel, and they are trying to be unbiased and nonpartisan. We should be too. In between breaks in the process, feel free to politely approach your County Board of Elections members and staff if they've told you that time is right ahead of time, and ask them questions if you have them about anything you've seen during the course of the canvassing meeting. If you have trouble hearing anything or you heard some details and you think it might be good to type them down, feel free to ask those questions if they have indeed told you that is the right time to do so. And please, 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 often the counties now know we're coming. And historically, we've been able to get Canvas monitors to most North Carolina counties. So sometimes they'll print out information for the public and the media. Be sure to grab any documentation offered to you, including any handouts. It may be helpful. They may have culled the numbers that you're looking for in terms of what Lily was talking about provisional ballots or absentee ballots and what has been accepted. Do call the nonpartisan election protection hotline. That's 888-R-VOTE, 888-687-8683. Marquez made me tattoo it on my skin. If you don't have that, we're going to drop it in the chat so you can put it in your phone. Right away, if you witness any problems or have any questions about something that happens at the Canvas monitoring meeting. What are problems? Well, we'll talk more about that. But if you have a spidey sense that something is happening that is disruptive, that is contentious, If there is something happening you feel like that is harmful to a voter that doesn't quite sound right, give the hotline a call. And especially if there's a break in the meeting, feel free to use that time to call the hotline. Do not call the hotline while you're sitting in the meeting. Anything disruptive to the meeting is a big don't. Other big don'ts. Don't interfere with any part of the canvassing process. Don't get up. Don't grab anything from the table. Don't do anything that the County Board of Elections has told you is the wrong time to do it. Again, we don't want to interfere. Don't be disruptive in any way. Even if you see something that you feel like is bad that is happening, feel free to leave the room, call the hotline, and make sure that experts are aware. Do not, as Lily said, try to see or touch or mark any ballots. Do not photograph or handle any election materials. That's a big no no. We want to keep those ballots anonymous, and one way to do that is not to look at them or take pictures of them. Do not display any political paraphernalia. We talked a little bit about why that's important. Don't engage or challenge or disrupt anyone who's there, even if it's not a county election officials. No brawling at the canvas. And please, please, please don't just rely on recordings or video rather than taking notes. Again, those detailed notes are what's going to be important to catching what really happens at the day of canvas. So just try to type everything you hear. Now that we know what to do and what not to do, I'm going to turn it back over to my friend Tyler to help us take a deeper dive into what to watch for and to document. Tyler?
Thank you, Sailor. So, a Canvas monitor's role is largely to watch for whatever comes up and take detailed notes on as much of it as possible so that election experts can assess if were problems in the process. So, it really is easy. We just want you to be there, take good notes. Overall, the most important basics to document are identifying as best you can who is in the room, which board members are speaking, the director, impacted voters, any observers. This includes parties or lawyers, jotting down any absentee and provisional totals in any other provided categories, and any laws mentioned, names of voters mentioned or voters being challenged, and the reasoning behind the decisions and who made them. So again, we want you to take really good notes. To start, uh, the most common ballot issues relate to absentee and provisional ballots. So we're going to look at absentee ballots first. When it comes to absentee ballots, the board may discuss individual voters, their issues, including ballot problems in late ballots. For example, mail ballots have to be submitted in their provided envelope with two proper witness signatures or a signature from a notary, and the voter's signature must be included. Mail ballots are due to the County Board of Elections by 7:30 p.m. on election day itself. There is no longer a grace period after election day. It used to be that mail-in ballots could be returned um, after election day as long as they were postmarked by election day. So if those ballots came in late, then they would still count within 3 days. But that grace period is no longer in effect for most voters. There still is, or this deadline does not apply to military and overseas voters. So those ballots can still come in later. Absentee ballots received by the deadline that have certain deficiencies may be fixed or cured by November 7th at noon. And that's also a new deadline this year. So the majority of absentee ballots are rejected due to a missing voter signature received after the cure deadline was passed. Other problems may include, again, the ballot arrived after 7:30 p.m. on election day. The ballot was returned by somebody who was not legally eligible to return the ballot, or the person failed to include a copy of their photo ID or properly completed ID exception form. These are problems. These problems are assessed during pre-election and pre-canvass meetings, and the counts are finalized during the day of canvass meeting. So that's absentee ballots. We're going to move to provisional ballots. Um, and these are ballots for which there's a question regarding the voter's eligibility. And there are a lot of cases of registration or voter ID problems when it comes to provisional ballots. The board may discuss the validity of all or some of a ballot cast by a voter. There may be some situations where part of a ballot may count. Um, yeah, this is all about questions regarding the voter's eligibility. So some of the most common provisional ballot issues are out of precinct voters, voters for whom the Board of Elections has no record of their registration, voters for which there is a dispute among their jurisdiction, um, and what district that they are in, essentially. And for these types of provisional ballots, it's good to document key issues such as voters with registration issues, especially if they registered at the Department of Motor Vehicles, but they didn't appear on the rolls on election day. And I know this has come up before where people say, "Yeah, I registered," and they don't have them at least on election day on the poll books for whatever reason. Voter eligibility issues such as a voter who voted at the wrong precinct on election day. That's an example of a ballot that may be partially counted. It may be a situation where the voter was eligible to vote in some of those races, but not all of the races because the voter did not get their proper ballot that they would have received at their precinct. So these are things that you want to document. Um, also, any process questions like whether the County Board of Elections failed to do appropriate outreach to attempt to verify a provisional ballot, or whether there were a large number of students who had to vote provisionally, or a large number of really any group of people that had to vote provisionally for the same reason. That would be something that we would want to flag because that could signal that there's an issue with the law or an issue with the processes that the board is taking that needs to be reviewed. Um, so we've talked about provisional ballots, and I will mention all of this stuff will be in a toolkit that we will share with you. So you don't have to remember all of it. I know this is a lot, but one of the um, biggest issues when it comes to provisional ballots has to do with voters who didn't show an accepted photo ID. So I'm going to pass it to Lily to talk about that and a few more issues to look out for.
Yeah, so like Tyler said, photo ID issues in provisional ballots is one of the biggest things to come up in canvas meetings, especially those pre-canvas meetings that we talked about earlier. Um, so basically, voters have the option of voting kind of one or two ways. If a voter is able to present a photo ID, and they reasonably resembled their photo ID and have a substantially similar name, they should vote a regular ballot. Um, if a voter is unable to present a photo ID when they go to vote, they have kind of two options, but they will vote a provisional ballot either with a filled out ID exception form, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute, or they will vote a provisional ballot and have the opportunity to return to their county board of elections within a few days. So that's by Friday, November 7th at noon. They can return between when they vote and that date with an acceptable photo ID and have their provisional ballot counted. So all of this kind of stuff is things that you will hear the county boards talking about at the pre-canvass meetings. And one conversation that we have seen a lot has to do with the ID exception forms. So again, when someone goes to vote and they can't present their photo ID, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have one, it just means they're not able to show it at the time of voting for a number of reasons. They have to be given the option to fill out an ID exception form and vote a provisional ballot along with that form. The exception form includes kind of three buckets of reasons for why the voter might not be able to show their photo ID. The big kind of main reason that we see is the reasonable impediment reason. So that might mean a voter can't show their photo ID for things like lack of transportation, disability or illness, their work schedule, family responsibilities. They've lost their photo ID or it was stolen. If they're mailing in, if they're a mail-in voter, maybe they were unable to get a copy of their photo ID to attach that with their ballot. There's also a form area on the form for an other reasonable impediment. If a voter selects other, they have to fill it out, but any reasonable, or not reasonable, I should say, any, option or reason that they put on there should be considered by voters. And that might just be, I forgot my photo ID when I came to the polls. That is an other reasonable impediment. The two other buckets on that form are a religious objection to being photographed, or the voter was a victim of a natural disaster within 100 days before the election. Um, and so that has to do with some other government declaring things a natural disaster. We did see that after Hurricane Helene. Um, and again, this raised a lot of questions at campus meetings, so it's definitely something to be on the lookout for. A lot of boards and board members disagreed about whether to count reasonable impediments that voters indicated on their form. Um, what the county boards should be doing under the law is counting the provisional ballot with a properly completed ID exception form. They should not judge how reasonable the exception is or how reasonable they perceive it to be, and they should not conduct any independent research into the truthfulness of the form. The only reason that provisional ballot should not be counted because of the ID exception form is if the county board unanimously, so everyone on the board, finds that the form was not properly completed, or that they have grounds to believe that the information is false. And again, they shouldn't be doing any independent research into the truthfulness of that. Um, so be sure to keep notes if the county board members are saying, well, I don't want to count this because I don't think I forgot my ID is a good reason. They cannot be making those judgment calls on things like that. They just have to look out that the form was properly completed. So please take really detailed notes about what those decisions look like and document any final decisions that are made. Um, and if a county board rejects a voter's ID for any of those kind of reasons, other than, the two reasons that the form was either not properly completed or that it was false. So if any other reason goes into them, rejecting an exception form, that's a good time to call or text the voter hotline to let us know really quickly about that issue. And again, I think the voter hotline is in the chat, but it'll get sent to you after this meeting. And again, that's an issue that will probably come up throughout those pre-canvass meetings. Some other issues to document outside of those provisional ballot and photo ID things are voter challenges or hearings. So a voter challenge is when a voter's right to register or stay registered or vote is challenged. A voter can be challenged by any voter in their county up to 5 days after Election Day. The burden of proof for that challenge is on the person making the challenge, not on the voter. But the challenge voter might then have to provide some proof of their eligibility. So this is another important thing to kind of take detailed notes on whether voters were challenged, including their names and what the board did with that challenge, whether it was sustained or not. Another thing is same-day registration. So thinking about were same day registration ballots challenged or denied, how many? Um, Usually, in my experience, at least last year, this came up a lot on the day of Canvas itself. They would say, by the way, we had this many voters have issues with their mailing, and this number of ballots, therefore, are not being counted because of the same day registration laws. So make a note of that number. Also make a note of any discussion about, mail issues. When a voter votes for same day registration, they get that, mailing postcard like we all get when we register. But if that returns to the county board, it triggers a whole process there. So if they talk about that process or common mail issues they see, and those mailings being returned to them, that is definitely another thing to take some notes of. Other things might be damaged ballots, voting machine issues, tabulator issues, things like that that just maybe have affected the voter process or anything that might come up that kind of, if it's something that you're like, oh, that sounds weird, that's a good thing to take a note of and generally report back. And again, I know that's a lot of information. All of this is going to be on these slides that you get and other information that is going to follow up with you after the call. And if you're not sure, you can also always call the hotline yourself and someone will be able to walk you through and talk a little bit more about that. And with that, I'll pass it to Lucas actually to talk a little bit more about escalating things to the hotline and when a monitor should maybe give the hotline a call.
Yes, thank you, Lily. As has been teased by Lily and Sailor, we do have a very nifty tool that's going to be very important to use during this process, and that'll be our hotline, which is 888 our vote or 888-687-8683. And so just know that when it comes to flagging an issue to the hotline, it's important to always trust your gut. Some examples of important problems we like to hear about in your county include things that have been previously talked about, such as voter challenges or election protests, voter ID exception forms being rejected without a valid reason. Remember, like Lily was just talking about, county boards of elections must count provisional ballots with properly completed ID exemption forms. We also want to hear about County Board of Election members who decide to go into closed sessions without stating why. And even if they do state a reason why, if it seems suspect, we want to hear about that too. We always want to hear about instances of intimidation directed at voters, election officials, or poll workers, as well as public or voters being denied access to the Canvas meeting. That should really never be happening. And that also includes virtual meetings where there's poor audio or visual issues happening there with it. Um, as has been happening a little bit more recently, we want to know more about incidents of mis or disinformation that can be documented in the County Board of Elections. And we always want to know what's going on when it comes to the County Board of Elections not allowing public to ask questions or failing to provide information for their actions, especially when it comes to spoiling or rejecting a vote. So we want to make sure that anything that they do, we understand why. We want to know what that decision was made and have that properly documented toward that information is available to us. We don't want people especially when we talk about things like the exemption forms, if they decide not to approve of one, we need to know why, to make sure that they're following the law and everything's been going properly. That way, no one's being disenfranchised. And then any impacted voters that show up to be heard. We want to know what happens there and hear from those. And so if there is an impacted voter that shows up to be heard, please make sure to collect a synopsis of their issue. These stories are very important and they bring awareness to the issues that are impacting voters in our state. And please make sure to collect information such as their names, emails, and phone numbers so that way people on the hotline can follow up with them. And because we want to make sure that we're connecting those impacted voters with the election experts that we have on the hotline. And like I was saying previously, the best piece of advice when it comes to the hotline is that if you're not sure if an issue rises to the level where you need the hotline, just call the hotline. Trust your gut. And at the end of the day, if it comes down to it, you're unsure what something is, call the hotline and they'll be able to provide the information available to you. Because we do have election experts that staff the hotline whose whole purpose is to be there to help you through this process to make sure that everything's going properly, that if any questions arise, they're able to help you. And as I said, you can call the hotline at 888 our vote, But you're also able to text that number, which may be easier during meetings. If you're, taking notes on your phone, you're able to switch over there and send a text. And just know, in case there are any concerns, that these texts will go to real people. And so, saying that they go to real people, you may also be wondering what's going to happen with all this information that I'm reporting to you, because this is a lot, including is anyone even going to read it? And the answer to that is yes. We do read everything that you submit. This is very important information. When you provide your observations as soon as possible, your reporting will help our coalition of election experts and our organizations, along with the League of Women Voters, will share your reports regularly and collaborate on how to respond. This information helps us identify problems with the process in almost real time, identify the numbers and types of voters impacted, and advocate for better election policies and voting access, including, what we see right now has been going on for a while, especially with our partner SCSJ on board, meaningful litigation and legislation that can help make a difference for one voter or all voters. And the form to use for all of this um, is ccnc.me/CBOE report form too. So that's the same report form for everyone. And make sure to just call the hotline if any questions pop up too.
Thank you so much, Lucas. So we have covered a lot, and I am shocked that it's only 7:10. Um, but I just want to recap some things here. First, we learned that canvas monitoring and documentation are really important to election protection. Um, and we learned about when we need your help for pre-canvass and canvass meetings, and that is going to be, again, that period from election day to the day of canvass between November 4th and November 14th. Most counties are going to meet on November 7th. So just note that to review provisional ballots. And all counties will meet on November 14th for the day of canvass. I know several counties will also likely meet on November 13th for a pre-canvass meeting. And we have a list of meetings that have already been scheduled. We're going to show that to you in a moment. Um, but yeah, also keep in mind that county boards may discuss early voting plans for the 2026 primary during some of these canvas meetings. Um, I know that happened in 2023 when we had the 2024 primary the next year. So keep a lookout for that as well. There's a lot to look out for. Again, one of the main things to take away here is we want you to go to the meetings and just take really good notes, and then make sure that you share it with us using the reporting form. So some resources you can see there. Again, we talked about the hotline 888-hour vote. And we're going to share, we're going to put the sign up form in the chat. And yeah, I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. And we will make sure that it is included in the follow-up details as well um, for you. Um, but I did want to stop the screen share for just a minute so that I can show you what it's going to look like when you sign up. And so those of you who uh, monitored last year, you'll be familiar with this process. It's going to be a very similar process, but this is the sign up form here, and you'll just fill this out. And one key thing is even if you regularly monitor your county, I know we have some monitors on here who are um, longtime regular monitors that go to their county all the time. We still ask that you fill it out. That way we have an idea. It gives us a good picture of where all the coverage is. Um, so yeah, you just put in your contact information here, um, and the county where you're in, um, and you'll check that yes, you did attend a Canvas monitoring training since you're here. And then here under shifts, this is where you will go to add, under find your shift, you'll click on add shift right here, and that will come up with this menu. And this is where you will find the county that you want to monitor. And you can see we've got all the times listed here and the dates. Some of these you'll notice um, will say TBD, time TBD. And that means that we expect the county to meet on that date, but they have not um, they have not shared exactly when they're going to meet, but we expect them to. Again, and you'll notice that a lot for the November 7th meeting dates. Again, we expect pretty much all counties to meet on that date to review provisional ballots. So if that is the case, and it's still, and we do, some of us are contacting the counties to try to get more clarification around those times, and we'll be updating this throughout the coming days. So some of those will likely change as we get that updated information. But if it still shows TBD and it's only a couple days before that particular date, then this is a situation where you would just want to call. And again, really for all of them, we always ask you to call or email the county board um, beforehand, just to confirm it. It could be that they aren't meeting on that date. Um, and then sometimes these dates do move as well. Um, and that can happen on short notice. So always, contact before you go. We don't want you to be driving out and then, they ended up canceling the meeting or moving the meeting. And you'll see with each of these, the County Board of Elections phone number is there as well. And then the access type. So there are some meetings that can be viewed uh, in person only. They don't have any sort of virtual option. So you'll notice that there. Some of them you'll see it says virtual in person, meaning that you can join virtually on your computer, whether it's a YouTube link, a Zoom link. There are various platforms that they use. You can join virtually. Um, we would encourage you if you can go in person, but if not, then that is another option for you. And then another thing here, you'll notice this link, ccnc.me/2025 Canvas dates. This, and again, we're going to share all of these links with you in a follow-up email. If you registered for this training, you're going to get this in a follow-up email. But if you click on this, this will take you to this page with all of the shifts of the available dates, with the meeting type, the access type, um, and then the meeting type will tell you if it is it a day of Canvas meeting, is it a pre-Canvas, is it a provisional review meeting, um, and you'll see that you'll see the County Board of Elections address, which is where most of these meetings will take place, and then you'll see the county board phone number, and then you'll see as people sign up, you'll see the names of people here who have signed up, and that will help you to know who has signed up for different counties. So that way, if you see people here at Alamance, and you were set to monitor, and it doesn't hurt to have multiple people at one county. That's fine, but um, uh, we would encourage you if there are openings where nobody is signed up, then to try to go to one of those openings, because that will help us in getting to as many counties as possible, and and yeah, so also feel free if you're, there are many people, you see many people who have signed up for your particular county. Perhaps go to a neighboring county and monitor. Um, so that's another option. Um, but yeah, so that's a synopsis there of the reporting form, and then um, the list of Canvas dates there. Okay, so let's get back. We've got one more slide here. Okay, so as a reminder, you are going to receive the sign up form to monitor that I just went through. Um, and again, you'll just check the county that you want. Look for an email from us with all the resources, so all the links that we've talked about and we've shared in the chat. We will make sure to share with you in an email, um, and including a link to the Democracy North Carolina Canvas Monitoring Toolkit. That is going to be a great guide for you. So it really is a synopsis of everything we've talked about. Because I know, again, it's a lot of information, um, and we don't expect you to remember it all. We don't expect you to be an expert either. Um, but we want you to have the information so you can refer to it. And then we'll make sure to include that hotline number as well. So yeah, we hope that you will join us, and a big thanks to all of you who have uh, done Canvas monitoring before. So lastly, in the final 9 minutes that we have, I do want to open it up for any questions, and a big thanks to Caitlin and Keith, who have been monitoring questions in the chat. Um, so and I think a lot of them have been answered in the chat as we were going along, but um, are there any questions, any outstanding questions?
Tyler, I had a question. This is Linda.
Sure.
If a friend wants to go also to Canvas, how will they be trained beforehand?
So we have recorded this training, and you can share this with them. They can watch that. Again, they can also look at the Canvas monitoring toolkit that we have. Um, that again is a synopsis of everything that we've talked about. So there'll be plenty of resources for them to review.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? And again, any questions about early voting too? Because I know we talked about that earlier. Um, I have to say, I am shocked that I thought for sure we would be pressing up against 7:30, but we um, we were able to cover all this uh, before then. Well, it's very nice of you, Alice. I appreciate that. Um, well, if we don't have any questions, like I said, we will send the follow-up email. If questions do come up, feel free to respond to that email. Um, and please, again, sign up. And again, a big thanks to all of you for doing this. It is really immeasurable how helpful it is. And I did mention, we didn't mention before, I know we've got a County Board of Elections report that's going to be coming out that will detail some of you'll feature the reporting that many of you all did from the 2024 canvas, and we're hopeful to be able to use that for advocacy. going forward. So, again, the reports that you are bringing in are incredibly, incredibly helpful. But again, any questions, feel free to email us and reply to the follow-up email. But thank you all so much for joining us tonight.